History has a strange way of hiding its biggest secrets in plain sight, not in locked vaults, not beneath government buildings, not inside Forbidden's archives guarded by nameless men in dark suits, but inside stone.cold.silent.ancient stone, the kind that waits patiently beneath deserts, mountains, and ruined civilizations while centuries of human certainty slowly collapse above it. For most of our lives, we are taught a very specific version of the past. Primitive humans hunted animals with crude tools. Civilizations slowly emerge, technology evolved step by step. Everything advanced in a clean, logical line leading inevitably to us. Modern humanity. The peak of progress. The smartest generation that has ever lived. But what if that story is incomplete? If somewhere deep in humanity's forgotten past, long before steel, electricity, or modern engineering, there were people capable of things we still struggle to explain today? Not magic, not aliens, something far more unsettling, human intelligence we no longer understand, because scattered across the earth are structures that seem to resist time itself. Massive stones cut with impossible precision, ancient tunnels carved through mountains. Walls so perfectly aligned that even a sheet of paper cannot slide between the blocks, and the deeper researchers investigate these places, the stranger the questions become. Tonight, we are stepping into that mystery, into the lost world of ancient engineering. A world where stone behaves like glass. Where mathematics hides inside temples, where civilizations separated by oceans somehow mastered the same impossible techniques, and where some of humanity's greatest achievements may not belong to the modern world at all. The mystery begins in Lebanon. At a place known as Baalbek. At first glance, it looks like many other ancient ruins, broken columns, collapsed temples, weathered stone shaped by centuries of wind and heat, but hidden inside the foundation lies something deeply disturbing. 3 enormous limestone blocks known collectively as the trilithon, each one weighing roughly 800 tons. To understand how absurd that number truly is, imagine the weight of several commercial airplanes compressed into a single stone block. Now imagine lifting it. Transporting it, positioning it with astonishing accuracy 2,000 years ago, without cranes, without hydraulic machinery. Without modern steel infrastructure. Even today, moving objects of that scale requires carefully coordinated engineering teams, specialized vehicles, and modern technology. Yet somehow ancient builders achieved it, and they did not simply move the stones, they aligned them. Balanced them, integrated them into an architectural system that has survived earthquakes, invasions, and the slow violence of time itself. How that question has haunted engineers for decades. Mainstream archaeology offers explanations involving ramps, rollers, manpower, and extraordinary patience, and perhaps those explanations are correct. Human beings are capable of remarkable things when enough labor and determination are involved. But there's still something deeply unsettling about standing in front of those stones, something that refuses to feel ordinary, because the closer you look, the more impossible the details become. The cuts are unnervingly clean, the alignments disturbingly precise. Some blocks fit together with such perfection that they appear less constructed and more grown. As though the stones themselves had softened and fused into place. And Baalbek is only the beginning. Thousands of miles away, high in the Peruvian Andes, another mystery waits in silence. Sacsayhuamana fortress built from enormous polygonal stones stacked together like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. At first, the walls appear chaotic. Irregular. Uneven. But the longer you stare, the more the genius reveals itself. Each stone was carved individually to interlock perfectly with the surrounding blocks. No mortar. No cement. Just pure precision. Some stones contain 12 or more perfectly matched angles, and somehow ancient builders shaped every edge so accurately that the walls have survived earthquakes that destroyed later Spanish colonial structures nearby. That detail matters because these walls do not resist earthquakes by being rigid. They survive by moving. The stones shift slightly during seismic activity, then settle back into place afterward. Modern engineers call this flexibility. Ancient builders mastered it centuries before seismic science officially existed, which raises another uncomfortable question. How did they know? How did ancient civilizations develop such advanced structural understanding without modern mathematical modeling made through centuries of observation? Maybe through experimentation across generations. Or maybe they inherited fragments of knowledge from cultures that existed long before recorded history began. Because once you begin searching for these anomalies, they appear everywhere. Egypt, India, Cambodia, Japan, civilizations separated by oceans, and thousands of years somehow converging toward astonishingly sophisticated engineering solutions. And no, where does the mystery become more controversial than ancient Egypt? Especially deep beneath the sands of Great Pyramid of Giza. Pyramids are often treated as symbols. Tourist destinations. Ancient tombs frozen in time, but when engineers began studying certain granite structures inside these monuments more carefully, strange details emerged. Granite is incredibly difficult to shape. Even today, modern industries rely on diamond-tipped tools to cut it efficiently. Yet inside ancient Egypt, researchers discovered drill holes, precision cuts, and polished surfaces that continue generating debate. Some granite boxes inside the Serapeum of Saqqara possess surfaces so flat and angles so exact that modern machinists have expressed genuine surprise. Certain measurements appear astonishingly consistent, symmetry repeated with almost machine-like discipline. Mainstream researchers explain these achievements through immense labor and abrasion techniques using sand and copper tools over long periods of time. And again, that explanation may absolutely be true. Ancient workers were highly skilled. Human patience can achieve extraordinary things. But the precision itself remains undeniable, which forces us to confront a possibility modern culture rarely considers. Ancient people were not intellectually primitive. Far from it, they understood geometry, astronomy, architecture, acoustics, and material behavior at levels we are still trying to fully appreciate. And perhaps our greatest mistake is assuming technology only progresses forward, because history repeatedly proves the opposite. Knowledge disappears, civilizations collapse, techniques vanish. The ancient Romans created concrete formulas that modern scientists struggled to replicate for centuries. Damascus steel became legendary because later generations lost the exact methods behind its production. Greek fire vanished almost completely from historical memory. Entire systems of engineering disappeared alongside the cultures that created them. So why is it so difficult to imagine that ancient civilizations may have possessed techniques now lost forever? Not futuristic machines, not science fiction technology, simply methods refined over centuries and erased by catastrophe, war, or time. There is another layer to this mystery most people never consider. Sound, frequency, resonance. Some independent researchers believe certain ancient structures were designed not only for physical stability, but also for acoustic manipulation. At first, this sounds absurd, until you step inside places like the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, or certain underground temples in Malta. Or ancient ceremonial sites where sound behaves strangely. Whispers travel impossibly far. Specific frequencies resonate through stone. Low vibrations create almost hypnotic physical sensations. Modern acoustic engineers studying some ancient structures discovered intentional sonic properties embedded into their architecture, which leads to a haunting possibility, perhaps ancient builders understood sound in ways modern civilization largely forgot. Maybe certain temples were designed not merely as buildings, but as instruments, massive stone instruments tuned to frequencies connected to ritual, psychology, or human consciousness itself. And suddenly ancient architecture stops feeling primitive. It starts feeling deeply calculated, purposeful, almost surgical in its precision. No, where is this precision more visually disturbing than Puma Punkuth site? Looks less like ancient ruins and more like the shattered remains of an impossible machine. Massive andesite blocks cut into geometric forms so precise they resemble industrial components. Perfect right angles, intricate grooves, symmetrical cuts repeated across multiple stones. Some researchers compare the shapes to modular engineering pieces designed for assembly. And while mainstream archaeology explains the construction through traditional stoneworking methods, the visual appearance continues fueling endless debate online because, to modern eyes, the stones look manufactured, not carved, manufactured. As if ancient builders possessed tools capable of producing industrial precision long before industrial civilization existed. Again, this does not require aliens or fantasy. Only skill, patience, knowledge, perhaps far more knowledge than we assumed ancient societies possessed. But there is one detail that makes this entire mystery even stranger. Many of these structures seem obsessed with geometry itself. Not decoration, not symbolism alone, geometry, perfect alignments. Celestial orientation, mathematical ratios embedded into architecture. The ancient world appears to speak a language written in shape, angle, and proportion. At anchor, what astronomical alignments connect the temple complex to solar cycles? At Stonehenge, the sunrise of the summer solstice aligns with the monument's central axis. Egyptian pyramids demonstrate astonishing cardinal orientation. Across continents and centuries, ancient civilizations repeatedly encoded cosmic patterns into stone. Why? Perhaps because the sky represented stability in a chaotic world. Stars moved predictably while civilizations rose and fell. Or perhaps ancient people believed geometry itself held sacred meaning. A bridge between humanity and the structure of reality. The more we study the ancient world, the harder it becomes to dismiss these achievements as primitive experimentation, because primitive people do not accidentally build structures capable of surviving thousands of years. Primitive societies do not casually develop earthquake-resistant architecture. Primitive builders do not repeatedly achieve mathematical precision that continues astonishing modern engineers. Something deeper existed there. Something patient, something disciplined. And maybe that is the real reason these ruins fascinate us so deeply. Not because they suggest lost superpowers, but because they challenge modern arrogance. We assume history belongs to us. We assume intelligence culminated in the present. But ancient stone whispers something very different. It whispers that humanity may have forgotten far more than it remembers. And in the next part, we are going deeper into the hidden mechanics. Behind ancient engineering, the lost science of water and resonance, and the terrifying possibility that some ancient civilizations understood nature more intimately than modern society ever will. There is a moment that happens to almost everyone who studies ancient engineering seriously. At first, the fascination is simple curiosity. How did they move the stones? How did they carve the blocks? How did they build structures without modern machines? But eventually the questions become stranger. Because the deeper you investigate, the more ancient architecture stops behaving like architecture. It starts behaving like a system. A machine, not a machine in the modern sense of gears and engines, but something more subtle, a carefully designed interaction between mathematics, sound, light, pressure, water, and human perception. And once you begin seeing these ancient sites that way, the entire world changes. Take water. For example, modern civilization treats water as infrastructure, pipes, reservoirs, treatment plants, utilities hidden beneath streets. But ancient civilizations treated water differently. They understood it as power, as survival, as sacred geometry flowing through the bones of the earth itself. No, where is this more obvious than the Roman aqueducts? At places like Pont du Gard, ancient engineers created systems capable of transporting millions of liters of water across enormous distances using gravity alone. No electric pumps. No computerized regulation, only mathematics, slope calculation, and astonishing precision. Some aqueducts maintained gradients of only a few centimeters per kilometer. Think about that. A tiny error in elevation would stop the entire system from functioning. Yet many Roman water systems operated efficiently for centuries. Even today, engineers admire their durability, but Rome was not unique. Far beneath the deserts of Persia, another forgotten engineering miracle still survives: the granite system, miles of underground tunnels carefully dug to transport water from mountain aquifers into dry settlements without allowing evaporation under the brutal desert sun. These tunnels were not random excavations. They required advanced understanding of geology, hydrology, ventilation, pressure, and slope management. Workers dug vertical shafts at precise intervals to maintain airflow and access during construction. Some granite systems stretched for astonishing distances. Entire civilizations survived because of this hidden infrastructure beneath the sand, and yet most people have never heard of it. That pattern repeats constantly in ancient history. The deeper the engineering genius becomes, the less modern culture seems aware of it. Perhaps because we assume technological sophistication must always look modern. Steel, circuits, electricity. But ancient intelligence evolved differently. It adapted to nature rather than attempting to dominate it completely. Nowhere is that philosophy clearer than in Japan's ancient pagodas. For centuries, Japan has suffered devastating earthquakes powerful enough to destroy cities within seconds, yet some wooden pagodas have survived for more than 1,000 years. How the answer sounds almost impossible. Flexibility. Ancient Japanese builders designed the structures to move with earthquakes rather than resist them rigidly. A central wooden column known as the shinbashira acts like a stabilizing spine, allowing controlled movement during seismic activity. Modern earthquake engineers continue studying these structures because the principles remain astonishingly effective. Again and again, ancient civilizations solved problems modern society assumes only advanced science could address. Not through computers. Through observation. Patience. And generations of accumulated experience. Perhaps ancient people spent far more time watching the natural world than we do. And maybe that gave them insights we have partially lost beneath modern speed and distraction, because ancient engineering was rarely separated from nature. It flowed with landscapes, solar cycles, rivers, stars, and geological forces. Even entire cities sometimes reflected cosmic patterns. Look at Teotihuacan, a vast ancient city built with geometric precision so striking that modern researchers continue debating its deeper meaning. The city layout appears intentionally aligned with celestial phenomena. The Avenue of the Dead cuts through the center like a ceremonial axis connecting earth and sky. Massive pyramids rise according to mathematical proportions that still fascinate archaeologists, and perhaps the strangest part is this: nobody knows exactly who built it. When the Aztecs discovered the city centuries later, it was already ancient, already abandoned, already mysterious. Imagine that. An entire civilization so old and forgotten that even ancient civilizations considered it ancient. Human history is filled with these moments: ghost cities, unknown builders, lost techniques, fragments of knowledge disconnected from their original creators. And perhaps nothing represents that disconnect more perfectly than the Antikythera mechanism discovered inside a shipwreck near Greece. The device initially appeared to be little more than a corroded lump of bronze, but when researchers examined it more closely, they realized they were looking at something extraordinary: an ancient mechanical computer, a machine capable of predicting astronomical positions and eclipses through an intricate system of interlocking gears. The level of engineering sophistication shocked historians. Nothing comparable was thought to exist for many centuries afterward, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. How many other inventions vanished completely because history failed to preserve them? Imagine entire libraries destroyed before their contents could spread. Imagine scientific traditions erased by invasion or collapse. Imagine brilliant minds disappearing during wars, plagues, or natural disasters. Modern humanity often assumes knowledge is permanent because digital systems store information everywhere, but permanence is an illusion. One sufficiently large catastrophe could erase enormous portions of our own civilization's memory. And perhaps ancient people understood that danger far better than we do. That may explain another recurring pattern in ancient engineering. Durability. Ancient builders often constructed for eternity. Massive stone blocks. Astronomical alignments. Monuments capable of surviving thousands of years. Modern architecture frequently prioritizes speed and efficiency. Ancient architecture prioritized permanence. Some structures appear almost deliberately designed to outlive civilizations themselves. Why? Maybe because ancient societies experienced catastrophic collapse often enough to understand how fragile human systems really are. There is another mystery hidden inside many ancient sites: precision without excess. Ancient builders achieved astonishing results using relatively simple tools. This is where modern minds become confused. We assume advanced outcomes require advanced technology, but that assumption may be flawed. Sometimes mastery emerges from refinement rather than complexity. Consider hand craftsmanship before industrialization. A master artisan spending decades perfecting a single discipline could achieve levels of precision modern mass production rarely attempts. Ancient engineering may have functioned similarly. Not primitive improvisation, extreme specialization passed through generations. And because those traditions disappeared, modern observers mistake the results for impossibility, but certain details still remain difficult to explain comfortably. Especially in Egypt. Inside the Serapeum at Saqqara City, enormous granite boxes weighing up to 100 tons, their surfaces are astonishingly smooth. Their corners nearly perfect. Some researchers, using precision instruments, detected tolerances unexpectedly tight for hand-carved stone. Again, mainstream explanations absolutely exist, but the emotional reaction remains the same when standing beside them. Disbelief. Because human intuition struggles to reconcile ancient timelines with such extraordinary craftsmanship, and maybe that tension explains why theories about lost civilizations remain so emotionally powerful. People sense that something about the official story feels incomplete. Not necessarily false. Incomplete. There is a difference. Mainstream archaeology has uncovered extraordinary truths about the ancient world, but the deeper we go into prehistory, the larger the gaps become. Especially regarding knowledge transfer. How did engineering concepts spread between distant cultures? Why do similar architectural techniques appear across continents? Independent inventions certainly explains part of the pattern. Humans everywhere face similar physical problems, but some parallels remain eerie. Polygonal masonry in Peru resembles techniques seen in parts of the Mediterranean. Astronomical alignments appear globally. Sacred geometry repeats across cultures separated by oceans. Perhaps these are simply recurring solutions discovered independently by intelligent societies. Or perhaps ancient maritime networks connected civilizations far earlier than traditionally believed, because recent discoveries increasingly suggest ancient people traveled farther and more often than older historical models assumed, and if knowledge traveled across oceans long before recorded history, entire chapters of human civilization may still remain hidden beneath water. That possibility becomes even more haunting when you consider sea level rise after the last ice age. More than 100 meters in some regions. Ancient coastlines disappeared completely. Harbors vanished, settlements drowned. And ancient humans overwhelmingly preferred coastal living, meaning some of the oldest human engineering projects may now rest beneath the ocean floor. Lost not because they never existed. Lost because the seas swallowed them. The idea sounds almost mythical until you remember something unsettling. Modern underwater archaeology remains incredibly limited. Humanity has mapped the surface of Mars more thoroughly than large portions of Earth's oceans. Think about that carefully. There may be entire submerged ruins humanity has simply never seen, entire forgotten chapters of civilization hidden beneath darkness and sediment. Perhaps future discoveries will transform everything we think we know about the ancient world. Or perhaps the truth is even stranger. Maybe ancient civilizations were not technologically superior to us. Maybe they were simply wiser in certain ways. More patient, more observant, more connected to the rhythms of nature. Modern civilization often confuses information with wisdom. We possess immense technological power. Yet many ancient builders created structures that still outperform modern buildings in durability and environmental harmony. Some ancient walls survive earthquakes better than concrete skyscrapers. Some ancient water systems operated sustainably for centuries without electricity. Some ancient monuments remain aligned with celestial events after thousands of years. That kind of thinking requires long-time horizons modern culture rarely considers anymore. Ancient engineers built for descendants they would never meet. Modern society often struggles to plan beyond quarterly profits or election cycles. Maybe that is why ancient ruins feel emotionally powerful, not because they are mysterious alone, because they remind us humanity once thought differently, slowly, carefully, almost cosmically. And yet, even with all their wisdom, those civilizations vanished. That may be the most important lesson hidden beneath ancient stone. No civilization is permanent. Not Rome, not Egypt, not the Maya, not us. Every empire believes itself eternal until history proves otherwise. The builders of massive temples likely assumed their world would endure forever too. Now their cities are ruins visited by tourists carrying smartphones. Someday our own civilization may appear equally incomprehensible to distant descendants. Future archaeologists may stare at our collapsed cities with the same confusion we feel toward ancient monuments. And perhaps they too will wonder whether humanity once understood things later generations forgot. In the final part, we are going to confront the darkest question hidden inside all ancient engineering mysteries. What if these structures were never meant only to impress people? What if they were designed to preserve knowledge through catastrophe? It's often what if the greatest secret of the ancient world is not how these civilizations rose, but why they disappeared so completely. There's something deeply unsettling about ruins, not because they are broken, but because they were never supposed to become ruins at all. Every ancient civilization believed, in one way or another, that it would continue. Its temples would stand forever. Its kings would be remembered forever. Its knowledge would survive forever, and yet history is filled with silent cities swallowed by jungle, buried beneath sand, or erased beneath the ocean. Which forces us to confront a terrifying reality. Civilization is fragile. Far more fragile than we want to believe. The modern world feels permanent because we are living inside it. Electric lights glow every night. Satellites orbit overhead. Digital information flows endlessly through invisible networks. Humanity appears unstoppable, but permanence is often just the illusion created by continuity. Break that continuity long enough, and even the greatest civilization can disappear into myth. Perhaps ancient societies understood that truth more intimately than we do, because many of their greatest structures seem designed not merely for utility or beauty, but for survival across enormous stretches of time. Stone instead of wood, geometry instead of decoration, astronomical alignment instead of temporary fashion. Ancient engineers built as though they expected the future to forget them, and maybe they had good reason. Look again at Göbekli Tepe. One of the strangest details about the site is not how it was built. It is how it disappeared. The builders intentionally buried it. Carefully. Deliberately. Thousands of years ago. This was not a city slowly consumed by erosion. It was covered by human hands. Why would anyone bury something so monumental? Mainstream archaeology proposes several possibilities. Ritual closure. Cultural transition. Environmental pressure, all reasonable explanations, but emotionally, the act still feels strange, almost protective. As though the builders wanted the site hidden until some distant future rediscovered it. A message preserved beneath time itself. And Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Throughout history, humans repeatedly attempted to preserve knowledge against catastrophe. The ancient library of Alexandria sought to gather the world's understanding before war and destruction erased it. Medieval monks copied manuscripts through centuries of collapse. Sacred traditions passed orally from generation to generation long after civilizations vanished. Again and again humanity behaves as though forgetting is inevitable. Perhaps because it is memory dies faster than stone. Think about how easily modern information could disappear. Most of humanity's knowledge now exists digitally. Invisible. Fragile. One prolonged global collapse could erase enormous portions of civilization within decades. Servers fail. Electric grids collapse. Data degrades. Future generations might inherit fragments without context. Exactly as we inherited fragments from the ancient world, and maybe that is why these engineering mysteries fascinate us so deeply. They feel like echoes from another cycle of humanity. Not necessarily a technologically superior civilization, but a civilization equally human, equally intelligent, equally vulnerable, because vulnerability is the one thing every civilization shares. No empire escapes nature forever. The Maya built extraordinary cities aligned with celestial cycles. Today many of those cities sleep beneath jungle roots. The Romans constructed roads and aqueducts spanning continents. Their empire shattered anyway. Ancient Egypt endured for thousands of years. Even Egypt became ruins. History is not a straight line upward. It is a graveyard of civilizations that once believed themselves permanent, and perhaps ancient engineering reflects that awareness. Many structures seem intentionally connected to cosmic cycles far larger than individual human lives. Solstices. Equinoxes. Planetary movements, astronomical repetition. Ancient builders constantly aligned themselves with patterns that outlast civilizations. Almost as if they understood something modern culture forgets. Human societies are temporary. The cosmos is not. That perspective changes architecture itself. A modern office building is designed for efficiency. An ancient temple was often designed for eternity. And no, where is that sense of eternity more overwhelming than inside the Great Pyramid, even after thousands of years? The structure remains astonishingly resilient. Earthquakes. Looters. Weather. Empires rising and falling around it. Still it stands. There is a psychological effect to encountering architecture built on that scale. People instinctively feel small beside it, not merely because of size, because of time. The pyramid reminds us that entire civilizations can vanish while stone continues waiting silently beneath the stars. Maybe that emotional reaction explains why so many theories emerge around ancient monuments. Humans struggle to emotionally process the scale of these achievements, especially when modern assumptions insist ancient people were primitive. But perhaps the problem is not ancient intelligence, perhaps the problem is modern arrogance. We assume technological sophistication belongs exclusively to us because our tools are electronic and complex. Yet complexity and wisdom are not always the same thing. Ancient civilizations often achieved extraordinary results through simplicity refined over centuries. Observe nature carefully enough and certain truths reveal themselves. How water flows, how structures distribute force, how resonance travels through materials, how stars move through the sky. Ancient engineers spent generations studying those patterns because survival depended on understanding them. Modern civilization often insulates itself from nature instead. Climate-controlled environments, artificial lighting. Digital systems separating humanity from direct observation. We know more facts than ancient people did, but in some ways, they may have understood reality more intimately than we do. Especially the reality of impermanence. Because the greatest lesson hidden inside ancient ruins is not technological mystery. It is mortality. Everything ends. Empires. Languages. Religions. Economic systems. Political ideologies, even entire worldviews vanish eventually, and perhaps ancient builders attempted to fight that disappearance the only way they could. By carving memory into stone, there is another reason these mysteries resonate so strongly today. Modern civilization feels increasingly unstable. Climate anxiety, political division, economic fragility, technological dependence. Many people sense, consciously or unconsciously, that our own world may not be as permanent as it appears. Ancient ruins become mirrors reflecting our fears about collapse. Maybe that is why stories about lost civilizations never truly disappear. Atlantis. Flood myths, forgotten golden ages, buried cities. They are not only stories about the past, they are stories about us. Warnings disguised as mythology. Because deep down humanity understands something uncomfortable. We are never as secure as we think we are. One asteroid, one supervolcano. One pandemic. One global systems failure. Civilization survives through balance, not invincibility. And balance can break. Perhaps ancient societies learned that lesson repeatedly. That possibility becomes even more haunting when you consider how little of human history we actually know. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Recorded history occupies only a tiny fraction of that timeline. Most human stories vanished long before writing emerged. Entire cultures disappeared without leaving names behind. We are standing at the edge of an ocean of forgotten time, and every archaeological discovery illuminates only a few more inches of darkness. Somewhere beneath forests, deserts, and oceans, countless ruins likely still wait undiscovered. Some may confirm mainstream history, some may complicate it. A few might completely transform it. That is the true excitement of archaeology, not proving fantasies. Revealing how strange reality already is, because reality is strange enough without inventing aliens or supernatural explanations. Human beings alone are extraordinary, creative enough to raise pyramids, patient enough to carve mountains, brilliant enough to align temples with stars, and fragile enough to lose entire worlds to time. Maybe the ancient world does not need mythical super technology to amaze us. Maybe the truth is more powerful. Ordinary humans achieved extraordinary things. And then nature erased much of their memory anyway. There is something tragic about that thought, but also beautiful, because despite collapse, despite disaster, despite forgetting, humanity keeps rebuilding. Again and again across thousands of years. We lose cities. We lose knowledge. We lose civilizations. Yet somehow the species continues. Creating. Building. Searching for meaning beneath the stars. Exactly as ancient people once did. Perhaps that is the real inheritance left behind by forgotten engineers, not secret machines, not impossible technology. Resilience. The refusal to stop creating even in a world where everything eventually disappears. And maybe that is why ancient ruins still feel alive, because they are conversations across time, messages from people who knew they would die, yet built anyway. People who understood that civilizations collapse, but human curiosity survives. The builders of Baalbek probably never imagined strangers from another age would stand beneath their stones asking impossible questions. The architects of ancient Peru never expected future civilizations to study their earthquake-resistant walls. The engineers who carved granite chambers beneath Egypt could not have imagined satellites orbiting above the pyramids. And yet their work endured long enough to reach us. That alone is extraordinary. Maybe the true mystery is not how ancient civilizations built these structures. Maybe the true mystery is whether modern civilization still possesses the patience, discipline, and long-term vision required to create anything that will survive 10,000 years from now, because ancient engineering was not only about construction. It was about time, building beyond one lifetime, beyond one kingdom, beyond one civilization, and perhaps that is the final secret hidden inside these forgotten monuments. The ancient world was never primitive. It was human. Brilliant. Flawed. Temporary. Just like us. And somewhere beneath the ruins of lost cities and impossible stonework, one silent truth continues echoing across history. Humanity has forgotten more than it remembers.